Okay, today we're going to talk about the dorkiest part of a setup, and that is bushings. Bushings are not only dorky, but they're also extremely important, which is why we're talking about them today. They're my favorite part of a setup because after you've got the entire thing dialed, you've picked out your board, you've picked out your trucks, you've picked out your wheels, the bushings are going to have the biggest impact on how that board feels. So let's talk about the four major factors that go into choosing bushings on a skateboard and why you might want to move in one direction of softness or hardness based on those varying factors. So the number one factor is going to be weight, of course, right? However much you weigh is going to correspond with how much force you can put into the side rail of the board and is going to impact what bushing choice you make. If you're 200 pounds, you're going to choose a heavier bushing than you would if you're 150 pounds. It's that simple. The second factor is truck width. Now think about, let's see, a wrench. A long wrench is going to put more leverage over the object that you're turning, right? And that happens with trucks as well. All other things being the same, if we're choosing between 150s and 170s, we might choose one duro harder on a 170 millimeter truck than we would have if we were using a 150 millimeter truck. The third thing that is a major factor is the angle of the truck. This particular board, I've got a 50-degree truck on the front and a 30-degree truck on the rear. And because that 50-degree truck, the kingpin is angled further forward, when you're putting downward pressure on the side of the board, you are putting less pressure on the bushing. It's more parallel with the board as opposed to perpendicular. So as comparison, on this rear truck, we have a 30-degree truck and 30-degree base plate. And because the kingpin is more vertical, it's more perpendicular to the board, when we pressure the side of the board, we're putting more direct pressure on that truck, resulting in us having to choose a heavier bushing than we would if we were using a higher degree angle front truck. In this particular setup, it's a 50-30. We might choose a 10A split or so between the front and the rear, which is what we have here. This is an 87.5 pink up front and a 97.5 green in the rear. Here is a pump deck with 130s, and this is also a 50-30 setup, but we have additional wedging on the board. So this is 55 in the front, and we have this 30 here, and we took out 5 in the rear, so that's a 25. So our split's going to be even more drastic in that case because we're getting less leverage over the front and more leverage over the rear. Now, correspond that with the fact that we have a 130 millimeter truck here. On this particular board, we set it up with a 95A rear as opposed to the 97A rear on the other board, and that's because this is a 130 millimeter truck and you're getting less leverage over that bushing than you would if you were using a 170. The last factor worth considering when choosing bushings is going to be deck height. Now this is a double drop deck, this is a trip, and because you're lower to the ground and you're less on top of the truck, you're putting less direct force into the bushings. So when you have a lower board, you're going to often choose a softer bushing than you might otherwise if you're riding a top mount, where you would be putting more direct force into the edge of the board. So those are the four factors that we're going to look at when we are picking out bushings. As you can see, this is a 50-50 setup, and we have a 90A front, 90A rear. I like, for me, when I set up a symmetrical board, I usually almost always set up the front and rear the same. Now, not everybody does that, but if you make a big split on a 50-50 setup, for example, you're going to get a lot more articulation out of the bushings up front than you will in the rear, and what that results is an imbalance in the setup. And what may end up happening is you are able to articulate that front so much that the rear truck, because it can't articulate, it just lifts off the ground. You're going to end up on 3 wheels and get less grip. All right, that's it. Go out there, have fun, experiment with bushings. It's a black hole, and it's a really fun black hole, so enjoy the ride. Thanks.